and let's get this thing going here. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming. I wanted to do a couple of things. I'm going to hit my share screen and go to my most recent civil rights stuff and do that first. So, civil rights and social justice in the last week or recently. And while the projector's warming up, of course, I got to go and make sure that this is happening over here in settings. I'm glad I've done this a time or two. So system, duplicate the displays. Fantastic. All right, keep the changes. Here we go. Okay. Yay, civil rights. So I got to push you guys up someplace so that you are just tiny, teeny tiny. Sorry about that. Where am I going to put you? Down there. Okay. So this week in civil rights and social justice, just in case you didn't think anything was happening or that this was a dead topic or something like that, we got this stuff going on. The Ahmed Armory case came to a conclusion last week. The three white guys who chased him in a pickup truck tried to detain him because they thought that he looked suspicious. He was jogging, he was out running in the neighborhood, and they were concerned about people like going into house construction areas and taking construction materials or something like that. They tried to detain him. A fight broke out. They shot him with a shotgun. Okay, so the killers were found guilty of murder. Killers sentenced to life in prison last week. So that's a thing. That is a thing that has, been in the news, and it got resolved last week. Two were sentenced to life without parole, and one was sentenced to life with the possibility of parole. He was the guy who took the video of the thing on his cell phone that wound up being the incriminating evidence that got them all sentenced to life. Dante Wright. This is another one of those things that happened in Minneapolis. Dante Wright was involved in a traffic stop with some cops. They found that there was a warrant for his arrest, and so they tried to arrest him. He tried to flee in his car. The officer reached for her taser, but pulled the gun instead and shot him by mistake. I don't know if you guys have heard about that one. That's another one that's been in the news for the last 6 months or so. Last week, the officer was found guilty of manslaughter, and her sentence is pending. Okay. In voting rights, we've got three different bills that are trying to work their way through Congress. There's the For the People Act, also known as HR 1, which has been in the House of Representatives for 6 months, and it's passed the democratically controlled House and is blocked in the Senate right now. It's trying to restore, a whole bunch of the voting rights that were kind of eviscerated by the Supreme Court decision last year. It's also trying to address some of the stuff that's going on in state legislatures right now, where Trump supporters are trying to make it so that state legislatures can just, decide that they don't want to accept the vote of the people, in a presidential election, and decide who they would want to put forward for the the electoral college vote that has to go to the Congress, in January. The Freedom to Vote Act is a watered down version of HR 1. It's been offered in the Senate because bills, except for spending bills can originate in either the House or the Senate. So this is a Senate originated bill that is being blocked right now by a couple of senators with a filibuster threat. And then the John Lewis Voting Rights Act to restore protections of the '64 Voting Rights Act, gutted by the Supreme Court decision. The piece of the Voting Rights Act from 1960 It's actually the 1965 Voting Rights Act. And this is really cool. I need to stop and talk about this for a minute. After the March on Washington and the I Have a Dream speech in 1963, Martin Luther King and other civil rights leaders worked behind the scenes and out front with President Johnson to try to push through the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which knocked down a lot of the Jim Crow laws that were barriers to voting for Black people in the South. So the Supreme Court decision last year kind of got rid of one of those provisions, which was that historically discriminatory states in the South needed to have pre-clearance or supervision of their voting processes to make sure that they weren't discriminating against people of color and that kind of thing. So there is work in Washington, D.C. right now from several different angles to try to address that thing, to try to restore what was the spirit of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 in all of this. So there's that, and that is happening this week. The Senate is going to try to bring to a vote this Freedom to Vote Act that's in the Senate on Monday. Monday, of course, being the anniversary or the day of the Martin Luther King Day. So it's got that kind of historical and anniversary kind of thing, trying to take it forward with some kind of renewed meaning for people. Last week, Sidney Poitier died. He was 92 years old. He was an actor from the 1960s. His movies included The Defiant Ones, To Sir with Love, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. He was a really pivotal force in Hollywood for Black actors. Before him, the only Black people that appeared in movies were either entering or leaving the scene with a tray because they were servants or something like that, or slaves. And after Sidney Poitier, more roles, leading roles, and roles that were not just servants started opening up for people of color in Hollywood. The Reverend Desmond Tutu died last week. He was the Archbishop in South Africa of the Anglican Church, who participated in leading, helping to lead the end of the apartheid government in South Africa. He was one of the people working on the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which tried to investigate abuses on both sides and tried to go through a process of truth and truth telling to try to get people to reconcile to the changes that had happened through that kind of very revolutionary and painful process of getting rid of the apartheid South African government. So that was a thing. Let's see, is that the end? No, Colin Powell was the first Black chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff under Republican administrations in the 1990s and 2000s, the first Black Secretary of State under President George W. Bush in the 2000s, groundbreaker in his own right. And then just reaching back into history a little bit, police, George Floyd's case this past year, where the police officer was convicted of murder and he was sentenced to 22.5 years. So there was a lot of movement in the news and on legal and lawmaking fronts this year about social rights, civil rights and social justice. And I just wanted to go over a couple of those for you guys, just in case you were looking for something to do a project on, because God knows there's lots of stuff to do a project on this year. So I'm going to stop that share and come back to you guys. I upload a PDF that should work easier than the link. Okay. I'm trapped now that I've got the recording going, so I can't go get it. I can only open stuff that's open on my desktop right now. So I'm going to go do a screen share. And there's this one. There's a third draft here. Didn't I open this? Is this not open? Come on, you. There it is. Okay. So I opened this and I think, can I click on stuff? Yes, I can. So there was this one last time. Would you permit me to just goof around a little bit on this? Pardon me? Was that a go ahead? Okay. So I'm going to try some different wordings here. One thing I tried by myself was just don't, I'm going to go, don't judge a person. How about that? Don't judge. What you've done here is taken two different phrases and have joined them together. Don't judge a book by its cover is one old adage and phrase. And then don't judge a person until you've walked a mile in their shoes is another one. And I know that you've kind of jammed them together, and I'm going to try to simplify it even further. What I was having a lot of problem with was the huge distance and separation of the top line from the bottom line. And so I'm going to just try to, let's see, don't judge a person until, so I'm going to simplify this a little bit by just going until you've walked a mile in their shoes. And then maybe I can make this a little bit bigger. So I'm going to highlight this and go to, and I know you tried it, let's see, 36. We'll try that for now. Or I could go to 42 or 48 and do something like that and hit center. There's so much dark, low-key value down here that we've got lots of space to actually work with. And the bigger I make these things, the more of the possibility that they have more space to live in. And I'm going to just get this a little bit smaller here. Smaller, so that we can see it. Okay. So I'm as a graphic designer, I'm trying to marry text and the image. And for me, the text and the image was a little bit too much separated. The text was a little bit small and just a little bit too wordy. And so you have to bring in the editor to try to do as much simplifying and getting down to the essential quality of what you want to say as possible. And you can even edit famous phrases or adages, or you can edit the words of Martin Luther King Jr. if you want to, if it'll make it fit and flow better. So don't be afraid to actually edit. So these are larger. I made them larger. I floated it a little bit further down, and I might take this and I might float it just a little further up. And as I bring them closer together, that increases the visual linkage between them as separate elements of the composition and links them also more strongly together with the image in the background. So I don't know if you can see what's happening, but hopefully it's coming closer together and the linkages are becoming stronger. And so we're just trying to clarify and strengthen the message, even though it does a little bit of editing to your original thing. So this is a suggestion. You don't have to use this if you don't want to. And one other thing that I did on another version of this is I knocked out this part and I just said, don't judge, until you've walked a mile in their shoes. So, I mean, that's editing more and more and more. The implication is that the rest of the phrase is implied if we just have enough to, activate people's social memory. They can kind of then, oh yeah, I remember that phrase. Don't judge a person till you've walked a mile in their shoes. So, if we did something like this, put the ellipse on there or something like that, it gets cleaner and cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. And you can push back on that and say, no, that's not what my meaning was. That's not what I wanted. But you're pointing at it. You think that's better. Okay, then you play with this. The only other thing I wanted to talk about was that the font that you chose was Bodoni MT, which is very, very close to a novelty font. It is a serif font, but it's more and more and more decorative all the time. And so it's just on the cusp of novelty. But since these are short phrases, they're now easier to read. And this one was Bodini MT Condensed. Yeah, so this one was condensed. And I was just going to try this in the non-condensed version. So I got to go down here to Bodini and see, this is Bodini MT Black. This is the Bodini condensed that you're using, and this is Bodini regular. And so, you know, if I apply Bodini regular to that one, and if I apply a Bodini regular to this one, then we don't have to be condensed anymore. And it opens up the letters a little bit. It makes it a little bit easier to read. But you know, this is then a style point. This is about taste. And so I'm going to look at it for the first time. I've never done this before. Look at it for the first time in the non-condensed version. And then maybe it'd be fun to go back and forth between the condensed and non-condensed and see which one was more easier to read, more communicative, you know, easier to get the meaning out of. So there's that. I wanted to open this up for anybody else. What do you guys think of what I just did? Is it interesting? Does it kind of show you what's happening? Or are you mad that I messed with somebody's original artwork? I'm open to any suggestion or comment. Are you guys okay with this kind of process of editing? I'm not going to edit your thing. I'm making suggestions to kind of show you the art of being a graphic designer at this point. Oh, appreciate it. Well, you're sweet. Thank you. I'm going to stop the share on that one. I'm going to go find something else to work with. Uploaded the PDF. Okay. And okay, so go to the share screen, and I'm going to go to this one and open it up for the share. Okay, so let's see. Where are we here? I'm going to go. No, what just happened here? Stop the share. Where did it go? Go to the share screen. Come on. Work with me now. Come on. Okay, so there's this one. And this one, I want to okay, we're full thing now so that we can look at this. I haven't looked at this before, so let's look at this together. The hottest place in hell is reserved for those who remain neutral in times of great moral conflict. There's quotes around that one. I'm assuming that is a Martin Luther King quote. We have the Martin Luther King photograph with maybe him in the middle of a march or something like that. It looks like there's a lot of other people whose heads are on the same plane as his. I see fedoras and hats on some of these people. So maybe this is either the March on Washington or the Selma March or something else. He himself has been cut out and posterized, and there's a white outline around him, which is really interesting. So the posterization, when you apply a filter like Posterize or something like that, it graphically simplifies things to just 2 or 3 values or colors. And so we've got, you know, 2 or 3 values of brown in the face, 2 or 3 values of gray in the suit and tie and shirt. And then we've got this outline, this white outline that's been applied around that. So that transforms him from just a photograph of somebody into something else, something that's more of an idea, that's a little bit more of an abstraction. It takes, you know, so there's that's happened here. So that's happening in the image. And this is what's going on in here. It looks like the T in the has had bold applied to it, or maybe has the bold version of the font applied to it. And the H in hell has also been boldened too, which is kind of cool. The rest of the fonts are, we would probably call them a sans serif font of some kind. I can't, let's see. I'm not in Microsoft Word right now, so I can't edit this at all. I can't click on this to see what kind of a font it is. And if the person who's online can just kind of pipe up and tell me which font this was, that would be great.
That was mine.
Oh, that's yours. Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Do you remember?
It's called Martin.
This is called Martin?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
the font is called Martin for Martin Luther King, huh?
It's supposed to be representative of the March on Selma.
It's
like the style of the posters they used that day.
Yeah, okay. So Are you saying that the actual cardboard posters that they had, they were using this kind of font or this kind of writing on the posters?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. It has a mid-century modern feel to it, which is good. Tell me about the bolding of the T and the H. What's that? Was that on purpose? Are you?
How the font did it, and I thought it was nice.
Oh, okay. Do you think, does every capital letter have a bold feel to it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So if I was gonna try to edit this off the seat of my pants without really thinking about it, all I'm worried about right now is that the quote is super long. And I might want to try to actually edit the words of Martin Luther King. The highest place in hell, those who remain neutral in times of great moral conflict. God, it's all necessary, but it's so damn long. You know, even if I took the word remain and changed it to R, so it was the highest place in hell is reserved for those who are neutral in times of great moral conflict. I mean, I'm just trying to take at least one syllable out of it and trying to just tighten it up a little bit. I might go down here to great moral conflict because that kind of lands kind of dead on the ear, and I might go in times of moral conflict and eliminate the word great, so that I would take out two syllables, and also, you know, one of them is great, which has a G in it, which is kind of hard, and it grates on our reading and how the words kind of sound in our ears. And remain seems like it's a little bit too fancy or highfalutin a word, and you know, if you put who are instead, it flows faster, it flows better, and I'm just trying to get more flow happening in the quote to tighten it up just a little bit more. I love what you did with the posterizing of the image. Gosh, I'm just the photograph is a color photograph that hasn't been posterized in the background. He feels much separated by the application of the filter. And it was even probably another application of another filter that put them all into that much out of focus. I understand what you did here. Oh, and you've got a drop shadow here too. Oh my God, you're playing with drop shadows and everything. You pulled out all the stops on this organ, didn't you? Yes, you did. Have you done this before? Have you been doing? Yeah. So you've been playing with graphic design for a while. Well, there's lots going on in here. I got to tell you that. What software are you using?
This was in Adobe Photoshop.
Okay, so you've got a very high-powered software with lots and lots of tools available to you. Fantastic. Well, I wanted to point out some of the subtle things that are creating visual linkages in the composition that people might not see. For instance, we've got the white outline around all the letters going with the white outline around him. Did you do that on purpose?
Yeah.
And so that was one of those factors of trying to get the text and the image to kind of go together, was that application of the white outline on both of them. Okay.
Have the same drop shadow.
Okay. Does the text have a drop shadow?
It does. You can see it best on top.
Oh, I see. It's so faint. I can see the drop shadow now. Okay. All right. And okay. There's lots going on in here. Is this a condensed version of this font?
It's a fairly condensed font. That's actually a bit uncondensed.
Okay.
The trial font.
Okay. Well, this is dense in terms of lots and lots of words and lots of letters. And so my only problem, I see all of the things that you've tried to do to unify this together, and I get that. But this is still kind of standing all by itself as a completely different thing than the image of Martin. And this is a complex quote, which is getting me hung up on it because it doesn't really flow. It's one of his less poetic quotes. So anyway, I see all of the things that you've tried to do as a graphic designer to make this work. And all I can think of is maybe try to replace the word remain with R, maybe get rid of the word great, see how that scans and what it looks like, and see if it's any better. But otherwise, you've done so much in this that, I take my hat off to you if I was wearing one, because that's really good. Anybody else want to chime in on this one? If there's something that you've noted that you like, or that bugs you, or that we haven't talked about yet that just kind of sticks out to you that you may have noticed or anything? Anybody, either online, you guys can unmute your mics and speak right up if you want to. And I know it's hard to talk about this stuff if you haven't taken a couple of classes in digital design or graphic design. It's really hard to try to come up with the language or to be able to say something that you think isn't silly and that we're not going to laugh at or something. We won't laugh at you, I promise. So let's see, Nyami, Dylan, anybody want to online say anything? Taryn, anybody? Okay. So thank you very much, you guys. Okay, so those are the little tiny helpful hints that I can probably do for this thing. Where are we with time? Oh, look at that. We're already at the end of the lecture portion of this thing. So how about if I change to, oh, I'm still on Ozbot. Look at that. So I'm going to turn on the lights. I'm going to go to the front of the room and see if Ozbot can follow me, because that would be cute if he could. Ozbot. Okay, ready? The lights are coming on. Really sorry about all of that. Ozbot, how you doing? I think that stupid robot camera is figuring out how to follow me, which is kind of cool. So since most of our lab is being spent at home trying to grind this stuff out, I'm not going to keep you guys for the lab today. If some of you are like half a week into this thing and are worried that you can't find any traction because you can't either come up with an idea or you don't know how to do this in Microsoft Word or something, you're sure welcome to stay after during the lab portion of this, and I can work on it together. We can spitball ideas in Microsoft Word, and I can show you kind of how to put your idea together, at least in a beginning kind of a way, so that we can get that going. So any questions for the good of the order before we all take off? How about online? Any questions for the good of the order from you guys before I take off? All right, I'm going to take this recording and post it and send it out to you guys so that you have it as, again, something that you can refer to if you need to. We're going to quit class for today, and we'll come back on Friday and play this game some more. And if more of you have something ready to go, even as a first draft by Friday, that'd be fantastic. And we'll just do this dog and pony show again on Friday to see if we can walk through some more examples of projects that are underway. So thank you, everybody. I'm going to call it a day and say goodbye to the online people and turn this off. Bye-bye.